Welcome back. It's 7:40. You're watching and listening to Breakfast with Patrick and Emily.
Let's take a little look, shall we, at some of the newspaper front pages. On the front of the Sunday Telegraph, they lead with the Conservatives are planning to use the budget to wrong-foot Sir Keir Starmer into borrowing money in an attempt to show that the UK will go further into debt under a Labour government.
The Sunday Times leads with Sir Keir Starmer beating Rishi Sunak in a head-to-head poll with 32% backing the Labour leader.
We go to the Observer now. Lots of Starmer on the front pages, I regret to inform you. Leads with an ex-policy chief saying that Sir Keir Starmer lacks clear sense of purpose due to his detachment from the party's traditions.
They say he's not left-wing enough or something.
Or working-class left-wing, all the old clobber.
The Sunday Mirror leads on a poll commissioned by the government that will ask 175,000 people what the royal family are. For that will cost nearly £2 million.
And the Sunday Express leads with the Prime Minister giving stronger signals that more tax cuts are on the way as he sets out an election pledge to build a brighter future for everyone. And joining us to go through some of the day's headlines is showbiz reporter Stephanie Tecci and writer and journalist Andy Jones. Stephanie, we will start with more tax cuts to come, apparently.
I think that's Andy.
Oh, Andy, sorry, Andy. Yes,
That's Andy's story.
I normally go ladies first. That's my manners getting in the way there.
Well, they are tax cuts, apparently, for me and Stephanie, so we can both talk about it. So, I mean, the Express has this front page, Rishi, more tax cuts to come. Rishi Sunak has given the strongest signal yet that more tax cuts are on the way. I mean, where are they? Where are we going to get them? He has, of course, though, inflation is falling and cuts to national insurance will come this Saturday, saving the average worker £450 a year, which is rather good. Yeah. Although that is the average worker, so perhaps that isn't absolutely everybody, and that does factor in the millions paid by billionaires or whatever and all this sort of stuff. So £450 a year, that's useful, and it's certainly a little bit more specific than what Keir Starmer's supposedly offering, which is, frantically going to my pages, he promises to end the cost of living crisis. I mean, well, that's quite a big promise. Yeah. Taking back our streets, whatever that means, cheaper energy bills, more opportunities for children, etc., etc. But as Daniel Kaczynski says, Tory MP, he says we've had the biggest tax rises for 75 years. Now is the time to give red meat to the voters.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, we haven't had this national insurance cut kick in yet. It's going to kick in this month, January being this month, next month. So people will have a little bit more money in their pay slip.
I forgot about that. That's the result.
Yeah.
You know, there is this excitement that you will get more money, but then just a general climate, you know, whether you're shopping for food for your house or your bills, all that extra money that we will get from these cuts will just go to other things. So...
And also, crucially, because of those income tax thresholds, you're probably paying more tax anyway. Yeah. They've been frozen for rather a long time.
Sorry to be so pessimistic.
let's nip over to the Sunday Mirror now, because dodgy diet drugs sold on TikTok to beat the Xmas bulge. I find
there you go, one for you.
Pack on a little bit here, but go on.
Horrible, Patrick. It's that time of year. Everyone's feeling a bit bloated from all their Christmas dinner, all the partying and all the booze. And it seems that online sellers, who I'm calling shameless, they are trying to sell diet drugs to young girls, particularly on TikTok. And most of these drugs are harmful because they contain a banned drug called phentermine hydrochloride, which is linked to high blood pressure and heart disorders. So they're trying to sell them £60 to £80 for a month's worth of these tablets. But the thing is, they're trying to say to them, you don't have to step in the gym and you will have the perfect figure. Why are people so anti-gym? I just think it's like...
Well, it's hard work, isn't it? I mean, it's
preying on teenage girls, this, because, you know, we remember being teenagers. You're obsessed with your figure. You're obsessed with being slim.
All these celebrities, you know, these celebrities these days, they're talking about this one drug, I think it's on Ozempic or something, which they're just taking for
the Kardashians, for example, they're all suddenly so skinny.
And people are thinking, oh, I can't look like that, so they're trying to get quick fix, which can be quite harmful and quite scary as well.
But with a little bit of work, you can all look like Andy Jones.
I don't know about that, Patrick. When are we going to have a blast of your strip routine again? I know that you've been putting it on air again and again this morning.
It's one
of the highlights of the year. But no, hey, I'm very impressed with Patrick's transformation and glow up.
Well, it wasn't hard, really. The only way was thinner.
You had a good year.
Point. I've had, well, there we go. Anyway, so, Andy, I'll sit with you on this. I'm not sure I buy this. Warehouses and live streams are killing the nightclub. So ravers are going to go big or stay at home. So you either go and, basically get off your nut in a warehouse, or you just stay at home and not go to a club.
Musicians, vendors, clubs have been moaning that young people are now staying in and live streaming, which is where either you sit watching a live event from a major DJ that's performing in wherever, and you just have the stream coming into your house and watch it and rave at home, or you go to a major warehouse rave, but you are not queuing outside a nightclub to try and get in. You're not going to a bar, you're not going to your local pub. It's either go big or literally stay at home. And this is really hitting the economy, and people who would normally go out and spend anything from, I don't know, 40 quid down your local pub to a few £100 in your local town centre are now staying in. And a lot of these pubs, venues, etc. are saying, well, hang on a minute, we're going to close.
If this is because a lot of younger people are favouring recreational drugs over alcohol.
Yeah,
and that might be one of the reasons why it's either a warehouse, or at home.
And also, well, that is it. And one of the things that young people, and indeed older people who might tolerate recreational drugs, will push back and say, well, look, it's cheaper to buy a amount of drugs for X pounds rather than buy £9-10 a pint in some drink in some of these places.
Well, hopefully and obviously, that's not the case. But
well, again, obviously, I'm saying no to drugs, but also when it's so expensive, a lot of people will do that instead, or they will stay at home and just get a few cans in with their mates.
Yeah, indeed. I'm quite keen on this story, Stephanie. The Daily Mail.
Yeah.
It's on page 11 in the Daily Mail, if you want to be specific here. BBC accused of weak-willed whitewash on Gary Lineker tweets.
Well, 2023 was all about Gary Lineker and his relationship with social media. I interviewed him recently and he was saying, I'm trying to stay off social media, but clearly he's ruffled a few feathers with some Tory MPs as he's got in trouble for, attacking them individually with his tweets.
Stephanie, sorry, he told you that he was trying to stay off social media?
Yeah.
Right.
I interviewed him and he said that basically he was trying to get himself out of trouble and not be on social media as much, only to just talk about football, but clearly he hasn't done that. He's backtracked. But Jonathan Gullis, a Tory MP, he's saying that the BBC are failing to let him know how they're going to deal with Gary Lineker over his tweets in which he's, attacked Tory MPs. So it'll be interesting to see what 2024 holds for Gary Lineker.
They don't know what to do with him, do they?
His ex-tweets.
They don't know what to do with him.
No. What would you do with him, Andy?
I think he has to abide by the same rules that all other BBC staff abide by. I found it quite strange that the BBC were cancelling their Jewish staff to say stay away from anti-Semitism rallies or stay away from other public protests. You can't go out and say can't go out and stand in the street and say I'm against anti-Semitism at the BBC. Why are you allowed to say X, Y, and Z on social media? And having worked at the BBC across radio and TV, I can tell you that they're endlessly cancelled about what you can say, protect the image of the BBC, BBC impartiality. The BBC exists on X, Y, and Z basis to give, proper views of different areas of the debates. And whilst I support everyone having their public right of opinion, Gary Lineker certainly does stray very close to the wind sometimes.
Well, he gets away with it. I feel like the BBC know he's one of their highest paid stars. They're not actually going to give Gary Lineker a red card. All this is just...
I don't know, maybe this is the year, maybe.
Never know.
Maybe.
Should we move on to, where should we go? Andy, Britain's armed forces are spending almost £2 million on a recruitment drive targeting video game addicts.
Yeah, in these swirling, difficult global political times, we definitely need to beef up our armed forces, and the British Armed Forces are spending £2 million on recruiting video game addicts, or at least specifically young people who use video games a lot. Now, my initial thought is, well, why would you want video gamers who perhaps are agoraphobic, a little bit lazy, maybe not in peak physical condition? But actually, when I went to Salisbury Plain quite a few years ago, a lot of the technology in tanks is now geared around mimicking that of, say, PS4 or PlayStation. The controllers for a tank, and I don't know, military staff or ex-military staff will be screaming that I don't know the name of the tank, but they are designed like a games controller.
They're like
so young kids who have grown up with games controllers, they then become adults and they design them to suit what they can already use.
I think it is actually a big thing, especially as we move towards drone warfare, more modern warfare. The idea that somebody is an absolute gaming whiz is great. I mean, they're not saying that they're going to be recruiting people to go and join our SAS or commandos or anything like that. I mean, presumably these people will have specialised roles, and I think it's good. It's probably something to
not always the fittest, though, are they?
We don't have
gamers.
to be. If a lot of your job is going to be, say, manning a drone or something along those lines, you can be thousands of miles away.
It's true.
And the other
transferable skills.
And the army would say, well, we'll make them fit. You know, I mean, they're not trying to get people that can't get down the stairs, but they can do a lot of. Look, if you can pass the fitness test, you're in.
Also, it's good for society, eh? Sorting gaming addicts out.
Yeah,
that's a real problem.
I don't know whether the MOD themselves will say they're targeting their gaming addicts. I think this is the Express using a little bit of creative license. I think they just mean gamers the MOD are targeting. But also, if you're already using war games and you're doing shoot 'em ups, I suppose you're learning some of the transferable skills.
Indeed. I do get scared though when I see like my godson playing like warfare games, because I just feel like it just increases this violent nature from them from when they're young. So if they can have something where they can transfer it into something more productive.
Yeah, I actually agree with you that I am concerned about the amount of violent games that people are playing. And I know that I probably sound like a grandparent from the 60s or whatever, but I think it does have a knock-on effect from very young children playing extremely graphic games. The graphics on those games are now so realistic.
Would you ban your child from playing war games?
I don't know whether banning's the right thing to do. I think I'd limit the amount of time on them and then see if it's starting to have an effect on them, you know? I would hope that my children would be out preparing to play sport or something, but, you know, it's wishful thinking.
The other thing is, it's not just that it's so vivid, it's also so immersive. You can wear a virtual reality headset and live in this whole world where you're constantly killing people for thousands and thousands of hours. It's not a sort of, I play a game and then sort of go and get a drink and then have breaks. They're completely immersed in it for extensive periods.
I mean, things like Grand Theft Auto are pretty
just
vicious.
having that concept of killing from a young age, it just doesn't sit right with me.
I wonder if, you know, there is a correlation between that and we're seeing increased knife crime, increased violent crime. I'd be intrigued to see the stats on that. I think we've just about got time.
Age of Empires, that's a good game.
Oh, it's the thinking woman's game, isn't it? We've just about got time, Stephanie, for apparently pets in courtrooms.
Yeah, well, we know dogs are a man's best friends, but courts now, senior judges are deciding whether witnesses, jurors and criminal defendants should be allowed to bring their cats or dogs
or hamster.
Hamster too, maybe, as a mode of support for them, which to be honest, I know these kind of pets can provide support to people in real-life situations, but I don't know if it's for the courts, because I think if they're there to provide you emotional support, there'll be a bit of a distraction, you know?
Of course.
We need to toughen up, don't we?
I mean, obviously, if you've got a child that's coming in that's in a really desperately difficult case, having that support is good, but we're minutes away from defence lawyers applying the fact that an animal is in court for a reason to get a trial abandoned, saying this defence witness cannot be in the room as a dog because same room as a dog because it's too upsetting, or that they're put off by it, and it'll be quickly used against prosecutions as soon as it's used in their advantage.
You can see that, can't you? Oh, Mr. Smith, I see that you're in court for murdering Dorothy from number 42 and setting fire to a premises, but you've brought your support guinea pig with you, and that's nice.
Yes.
You obviously need the emotional support.
He's obviously a lovely guy because he's got a lovely dog. Couldn't have killed 15 people.
Oh, good looking, he couldn't do this, could he?
That's how people think, isn't it? Oh, such a nice man.
A whole courtroom full of animals.
Zoo. We turned a court into a pet zoo. Well, both of you, thank you very much. Another cracking edition of Headline Makers. We're going to be hearing from Rishi Sunak soon. We're going to be talking Excel bullies. We're going to be talking illegal immigration. We've got all of that coming your way and more. But now it's the weather with Craig.